Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Just thought I would pop in, talk to you about what's going on in the planets and the stars. And wow, we've had quite a shift of energy, and it's something we really need to take advantage of. Uh, Such intense times we live in, and with this current astrology, we're being given a glimpse of something totally new and what's possible for us. So, part of this energy has to do with the fact that the sun is approaching Neptune in Pisces. There's a lot of energy around this because this full moon in Pisces that's happening on Monday is on Monday, March 9th, is going to be directly across from the sun and Neptune. Now, the sun is our identity, who we think we are, and coming up with Neptune in Pisces, we are looking at who we thought we were in the Piscean age and who we'd like to be moving forward. Now, that Virgo full moon is having an energy of a purification and kind of like supporting us and releasing old ideas of who we thought we were, the lies we've been told. And there's this interesting energy right now, the way everything is lining up, of just like seeing through that veil of delusion. And so it's, like I said, a really important time to take advantage of, because there could be a huge energetic shift on many levels available to you. Because we've been in a time for quite a while, who knows how long, but lifetimes, but where it's been kind of difficult to access the magical spiritual energies of awe and wonder. Now, this is our birthright. It's who we are. It's when we have an activated crown chakra. It's kind of like our natural state of joy. And yet there's so many mechanisms on our world, in technologically, energetically, collective consciousness, the lower astral plane with the stuck souls. I mean, there's just numerous reasons why it's been more and more difficult to access this sense of spiritual connection and synchronicities, feeling like you're supported here and your guidance. It's almost like that was kind of deliberately cut off. And this current astrology is like cracking that lower matrix energy. And it's a really interesting, cool thing, but it's, again, we have to take advantage of it, because the transits that are happening right now are something you have to kind of make space to reach out and grab a hold of. But the energy is, when we get through it in our daily life and the grind, and we're just trying to make it through, we're just trying to solve these problems, we're trying to just sort through. It's like, okay, well, when I get this figured out, then I can be happy, right? And then it's like, okay, but then no, there's another thing, and then there's another thing, and I got to manage this, and I got to figure this out, and it doesn't leave room for the spiritual sport that's available for us. And so many souls have just like, it's like, even though they do all this meditation practice and they're trying to be present with what's happening, it's like been so difficult to grab a hold of this spiritual awe and wonder and magic that is available to us as our birthright. Now, what's happening right now? So when we're in this place of trying to solve and think, okay, so when I get this figured out, then I can be happy, then I'll feel better, right? But we're kind of missing the boat there, and we're chasing our tail, because we know it's our vibration that creates our reality, right? And so these few days right now, leading up and through this full moon, is one of those times when we can kind of, if we can make the space for it, we can get a huge reset, where it's like, oh, if I can, it's like we got the chicken before the egg or whatever thing going on, where it's like we think we solve the problem, then we can be happy. It's a conditional way of being in the world, right? If this works out, then I can be happy and at peace. But it's like, what if actually the way to get it to work out is to be happy and at peace, which is, it's easier said than done, right? But this is one of those rare times where we're given an opportunity to be able to tap into this energy of peace and possibility, magic in the air, and kind of remember when you have these mystical experiences, which used to be so much easier to come by, like I said, but then it's like you kind of can sit back in your life and be like, okay, wow, whoa. It's like, they're so much bigger, more than my little confining reality going on here, and a feeling of being held and connected to greater forces that are supporting you. And but the agenda energies, the lower matrix, is like kind of everything working against that, right? Because they want us in fear, they want us in survival mode, and in trauma, because that's when they can feed on our energy and keep us from evolving. And so this is one of those times when you can have this shift of like, oh, okay, so those problems are there and you're always going to have them, right? I mean, it's like we somehow get in this thing of like, well, when this gets figured out, then I can be at peace, right? And it never works. There's always something more. And so what happens when we can be at peace and allow the energies to come in, the supportive energies and the solutions and the bigger truth of who we are, right? Like when we're connected to mystical revelation or disconnected from mystical revelation, we're disconnected from our highest self. It's like, and part of the whole delusion and the trap of the Piscean age is kind of feeling like, oh, there's this Father God out there that if I'm good enough, then I can get the blessings, right? And it's like, no, you are the blessing, right? We've just been like bought in, told a bunch of lies that we had to, this power's outside of ourselves and we have to go and beg for it back. We actually are so disconnected, we didn't even know it was ours to begin with and couldn't recognize it if it tries to land, right? So right now, the planets are saying, hey, crack in the code, right? Like this lower matrix code. And you can see through the veil if you really just take that time and enjoy this energy and allow it for yourself. Now, this is really interesting because part of the reason for this energy is definitely that the Sun and Neptune together, bringing spiritual possibility, revelation, opportunities for a connection to the bigger, wider truth of the cosmic whole. Christ consciousness, supportive energies. But what's really making it such an opportunity has to do with Venus coming into conjunction with Uranus in Taurus, so Venus is at home in Taurus, loves being in Taurus. It's grounded, it's safe, it's comfortable, and Venus can kind of relax and come into who she really is. And the Taurus energy has to do with exactly the Venus stuff, but around like self-worth and self-value and what matters to us and what we really care about, what makes us feel good. And so that like Taurus rules values and wealth and inner wealth and that kind of thing. And so Uranus has this higher frequency vibration, right? And so like it's this Venus is like, so we're having higher possibilities come through around our self-worth. And that's so potent and powerful because that might be a big piece of why we haven't been able to receive the spiritual blessings, right? And we talked about this before. It's a long involved story, but past lives where something happened and we blamed ourselves and we haven't been able to get out from that failure. And we're stuck on earth just wanting to help and wanting to heal and wanting to bring the light, but not feeling worthy of even accessing it for ourselves. This is the shift, right? That's available right now. It's like a massive rearranging in this deep level of self-worth and self-value, because it's like your true self is actually God's self. So how can you say that God's self doesn't deserve God's self, right? And so this Venus Taurus is so beautiful. And that together with the Sun Neptune is like, wait a minute. I can see a new identity, a new spiritual truth of who I really am. But that has everything to do with us being able to feel worthy of that, right? But there's like magical, mystical possibilities with that Venus-Uranus conjunction. Now, Uranus always brings opportunities for synchronicities, information coming through, downloads from the higher self, connection to ancient wisdom and future energies. And so Venus, the goddess, is it's like that return to the temple energy and her return to her high priestess, purified temple, purified high priestess, right? And what's supporting this whole thing has to do with Venus and Uranus together they're in a very sweet connection to the nodes of the moon. And so the nodes of the moon have to do with our future, our past, and kind of like the crossroads energy of how are we going to get out of the past and into the future? What do we need to do to get to our next place? And of course, the North Node is finishing up its time in Cancer. And it's really important that we get the messages of the North Node in Cancer, which has to do with nurturing and being able to receive, which is very connected to our self-worth, right? And this like great mother energy, this like nurturing of the universe. And is it okay for us to have that in our life? That's what the planets are saying is necessary for us to move forward at this time. So what a cool energy to have Venus and Uranus, like a new higher vibration around self-worth, and the purification energy with this Virgo full moon, dreaming a new dream of who we are with the Sun, Neptune. And then Venus and Uranus are in a sextile, 2 signs over, very powerful, like harmonious solution energy with the North Node in Cancer. And then they're in trine to the South Node. And that's really cool energy too, because we have all of the Earth, with this Virgo full moon, we'll have all of the Earth signs represented with Venus and Uranus and Taurus. And of course, all of the stuff happening. We still have Mars, Saturn, Pluto, and the South Node in Capricorn. And so we got all that Capricorn stuff, and then the Virgo full moon. So with all of the Earth signs represented, it's bringing us a stability. It's kind of grounding out the changes that are trying to happen right now. And so it's really sweet because we got that kind of groundedness and stability energy, especially with Venus at home in Taurus. And yet Uranus is like got this kind of excitement energy of the future, but we can harmonize to it and have it be grounded and stabilized, right? And then in that, these very harmonious connection between those planets and the nodes of the moon is like, we can do this. Right? We can do this. We can, it's like the past is harmonized. The future is a possibility. And what that has to do with is this massive shift around us being able to feel worthy and allowing ourselves to receive and come back into a nurturing connection to spirit rather than the Father God punishing picture of the Piscean age. And even though we don't buy into that stuff, you know, typically souls, these types of souls, it's like if I just talk to you about like, oh yeah, what about your Father God who's going to punish you? You wouldn't resonate with that. But it's like deep, deep programming on a cellular level through ancestral programming, past life programming. And, you know, it's got to come up. And that's what a lot of these times are about with all this Capricorn energy. It's got to come up for us to be like, oh, that's not true for me. I don't want to live my life from that subconscious programming, you know, and that's the possibility of these days right here. Huge shift in your fundamental structure of belief systems, particularly around your self-worth and your ability to receive nurturing support from the universe. And now also Venus and Uranus are just exactly 1 sign over from Chiron and Black Moon Lilith in Aries, right? And so that's a semi-sextile. That's also supportive. It's kind of like, yeah, let's figure this out. Let's work together here. And again, the sextiles, semi-sextiles, is a sweet lining up of like that star pattern we've been having all the way since November, December of last year. Kind of like saying, hey, we got to create a new grid. This is about creating a new grid. And that's, again, where these energies are saying, put your attention on what we're creating here, on the possibilities, on the truth of who we are as spiritual beings. And of course, this light coming in, you know, so a lot of this astrology, again, is that theme of like the light coming in has to reveal the darkness, you know, so shit's going to look weird out there in the world. It's a cleansing, a healing crisis. You know, in any true healing, you have a presentation of past symptoms. And that's what's going on in our world, you know? But we're given a few days of magical energy right here to tap into the bigger picture. And it's almost like that's for us individually, because Venus is such a personal planet. And it's our personal like self-worth, but Uranus is more the transpersonal collective energy too. But it's kind of like, we can affect the collective by being present with these deep programmed low self-worth and our ability to receive nurturing from the universe. And it's kind of like, can you put those issues and problems aside, understand that they're always going to be something, and go first to the piece of how it would feel for the solution to come, and try to just bring a little bit more of that into your life, right? And create from that place. But we've been like so stuck in this stuckness, like this being stuck between the past and the future, and one foot in the old paradigm, one foot in the new paradigm. And just like, how do you create in the new when you're still stuck in the old? And how can you move into the new when you have all these loyalty contracts to your family, to your friends, to your soul group, saying that, why should you be able to go move into these new energies? That's an interesting energy coming up here, with Venus ruling self-worth and Uranus speaking to the energies of the future. Is it okay for you to move into the higher vibrational frequencies? And that needs to be reevaluated and rearranged, because that's why you're here, to lead the way. That's why your life's been so intense, right? That's why the people around you just seem to be able to live their life. Of course, now shit's kind of starting to get intense for everybody, but these souls have been going through it. And that's because you're on the cutting edge, right? But you got to learn to receive these new energies, or we're never going to get anywhere, right? And that's kind of these things. But it's like, whoa, all of a sudden there's this like mystical revelation, magical possibilities energy of like, and it's like, that might be just these few days, and it might be just this moment in time, right? But when you have those experiences, it can change everything. Your whole perspective can change so quickly, because it's like a memory, a very spiritual experience of who you really are in the bigger picture, making the issues of this world like way smaller, in the way bigger picture of who you are. And that's just a really powerful, important medicine for us, each individually, to open up to right now. Can be like incredibly powerful homeopathic dose of medicine for the collective. So now, the interesting energy here too is that we do have tension aspects with the nodes. With Black Moon, Lilith, and Chiron they're in exact conjunction right now, and they're coming into an exact square with the nodes of the moon. So that means it's like they're in square to the south node and to the north node. And it's like there's a lot of tension there around that same feeling we've been talking about stuck at the crossroads. And of course, Black Moon, Lilith, and Chiron is speaking to but it's such a cool energy, because this Virgo full moon is like got this purification of the distortions of the Piscean age. Venus being the purified, coming back to the high priestess, returning to her temple in a purified form, outside of these stories and distortions. And so it's like this, everything's just kind of a magical alignment for us to take advantage of here. And actually that square to the nodes with Black Moon, Lilith, and Chiron is like, we can face the darkness and push through that. It's interesting, because the moon, this Virgo full moon, is such a powerful energy, because it really starts the new energies as we move into, because part of what's going on in this combination of energies has to do with Mercury getting ready to turn direct. And it's like, because it's an Aquarius, it's like, oh, there's this like an excitement of the future. It's kind of like, ooh, like just a vibrational energy of like, ooh, maybe we can, do this a different way. And so we're feeling that about to turn. We got this Virgo full moon. We're on the edge of this massive, who knows what activation, with Mars, Jupiter, Pluto coming together for the equinox. And so this full moon kind of starts that energy. And it kind of has an energy of this, the moon feels differently. And I wonder about this, like, we know that the moon there's mysteries, right? Like we don't get to see the dark side of the moon. And then it's like, well, did we actually go to the moon, or did we not go to the moon? And then like, what's really going on in the moon, And it's almost like the moon representing the feminine. She's got a light side and a dark side. And because of the secrets of what's gone on in our world that we're not told, and very dark things used to control us, that are connected to the moon. It's like our moon and the feminine have been in chains of the darkness and the shadows and the lies and the deceit and the distortions and deep, dark stuff. And that's Black Moon Lilith. I feel like she's like represents that chaining of the feminine and the darkest places of shadowy lies and deceit that we tell ourselves and that is going on in the collective, and sexual distortion, and Venus coming into Taurus with this Virgo full moon with, and Venus and Taurus next to Uranus is like that purification energy, And so it's like, I feel like this full moon, something is shifting, that the magic of the moon, the positive of the moon, the ancient mysteries of the moon as a positive force in our life, it is like coming back to us, And so that, all of these little pieces together is creating quite a picture that I've tried to put into words, but I feel like I can't quite put into words, but just try to make room in your life over these next few days and for that Virgo full moon to just kind of wash away, purify these old stories and this programming, and receive these revelations and this spiritual presence of who you really are, the greater truth, and outside, just beyond all the lies and distortions, and just sit tight with this experience. It's like go into your cave or to your lodge or to your temple or to your sacred space. And of course, this is the idea behind the 21 days of presence. I hope you've been able to join me there. We're just 5 to 10 minute meditations a day, creating more energy and room for the sacred space in our lives. And then I hope you can consider joining me for the Virgo full moon activation. It's great. It's been a while since it's worked out to do it at the exact time, at least in my time zone. And if you can't make it in your time zone, just know that the energy is encoded and you can catch the replay. But that's 11 on Monday the 9th, this Monday coming up. And that's the activation starts at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. That's 10 a.m. on the West Coast. And that's 1 p.m. on the East Coast. And then the full moon actually happens at about 11:50. So it's like 50 minutes. So it's kind of a perfect time for us to do this live activation at the exact time of this full moon. So I hope you'll consider joining me for that. It's $10. It's a guided meditation. We'll just talk through these energies so that you can make that space to receive the messages, the support, the connection back to what's really true for, and be present with who you are, why you're here in this bigger picture, and welcome in this connection to your bigger, wider spiritual self and those spiritual revelations that are available for us right now in these times of a few days of magical possibilities, really setting us up for this powerfully activating March 2020. So I look forward to seeing you soon on the activation, 21 Days of Presence, the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.